Hey everybody, it's Gil here with the Sailing Vessel Dream Chaser. Welcome back to another Friday video where we talk all about our lifestyle and refitting our 51-foot classic sailing ketch. If you didn't happen to see last week's video, I'll put a link to it right up in this upper right-hand corner if you're watching on a mobile device. If you're on the computer or something else, I will go ahead and put a link down in the description below for that video. But we talked all about route planning, and we're considering a route we're going to take to sail our boat from the near New Orleans area to the southwest part of Florida. And it's a kind of an interesting video. Look at all your plans, a little bit about things to consider, routes to consider, why we're considering doing a little bit of it on the ICW and a little bit of it on the outside. I hope you enjoyed that video. So just as the video was posting last Friday, we were starting to watch the weather really closely. As I mentioned before, we're in southwest Florida. Our boat right now is in a little hurricane hole north of Lake Pontchartrain, so not too far from New Orleans, but kind of tucked up in a nice little marina up in a river. And the idea is it stays fairly protected in that part of the country during hurricane season. But boy, Tropical Storm Sally kind of popped up out of nowhere. It formed right just south of the Keys, kind of between Florida and Cuba, and yeah, popped up, and its route was looking like it was going to kind of come right up the west coast of Florida. So where we live, we were thinking, okay, we need to get ready here at the house. Probably won't be too bad, just a tropical storm, so maybe 30 to 50 mile an hour winds, but that'd probably be it, and be just fine in the house. By about Saturday or so, the track was starting to be forecasted further west, and what it was looking like it was going to do is going to go straight up the Gulf of Mexico, get probably halfway between the south part of Florida and the Alabama, Florida Panhandle coast, and then it was going to start curving to the west. That's always bad for us. When a tropical storm sits in the Gulf of Mexico, they turn counterclockwise. Probably shouldn't do that. It's probably reversed in the video. Sorry about that. They turn counterclockwise, and that means that if you are on the northwest side of that storm in the direction it's traveling, you're going to get a much bigger storm surge than other places. And if you look at a map, I'll put one up as an overlay here, you'll notice that water pushes from the Gulf of Mexico into Lake Borgne and Pontchartrain and then floods up into the bayous, creeks, and rivers from there. So storm surge is usually our biggest concern when we have a storm coming toward us in that part of Louisiana. The way this thing was forecasting, I was sort of not too pleased with it. By about Sunday morning, the track was actually showing the eye of this thing going directly over where we're going to be, and it was expected to be a Category 1 or Category 2 when it hit land. But like most of the time, though, these things change, and they change frequently. The tracks get updated in the forecast, and we had the exact same thing happen with this one. Every time I looked, it was slowing down in its travel north, so it was sitting out in the Gulf longer, which had me concerned. It would throw more water up into that part of the state and cause more storm surge. But it also began to show it tracking east. So while it curved a little bit to the west, it was going to sort of stall out and then travel a little bit eastbound. And instead of hitting kind of just south of New Orleans, it was starting to say it was going to hit east of that towards Slidell, Louisiana, which is only about 20 minutes or so from the Mississippi-Louisiana border. And then the next time I looked at it, it was forecasted to kind of go over by Biloxi, if you will, so a little bit further east. And it ended up really kind of hitting even further east than that, a little bit closer to Mobile, Alabama. So yeah, we really sort of, I hate to say it for those people in that area where it did hit, but in southwest Florida we lucked out. It stayed west of us, and for us where our boats are and my daughter in Louisiana, it stayed east of us. We did see some storms. We did see some storm surge. It wasn't as bad as I worried. We keep track at the boat. There's a couple of buoys that monitor the water height, and I have alerts set up on my phone, so anytime the water is going to get to 3.4 feet above normal stage, it starts sending me alerts every single hour. And for us, when it gets to between 3.5 and 3.6 feet over its normal range, that's when the water begins to go over the docks at our marina, and that's when I start to get a little bit more nervous. You have potential power issues, you potentially have a risk of something going wrong with where you're tied to the dock with the boat, and God forbid something breaks loose. What you don't want to have happen is the water go high enough over the dock, the boat come over the actual dock, and then as the water drops, you find yourself hitting or bashing into a concrete dock, which is exactly what we're on. It's a concrete pier. While I'm talking, I'll throw up a little bit of footage. We did luck out, just looking at the security cameras and putting them on fast motion throughout the day. We lucked out. The wind never got above about 20 miles an hour there at the boat. And keep in mind, I mentioned we're up a river. We are literally up a river about 6 miles north of Lake Pontchartrain. And, I joke we're kind of, down the bayou. There's 45-foot trees around us on both sides of the river. So where the boat's sitting, it gets a lot of break from the wind. It's not to say it can't get damaged. Certainly, even during Katrina, some boats were damaged in there, but it was minimal. It wasn't the pileup of boats you saw in so many of the photos on the news. So in the end, we really lucked out. And you could see by this footage, it just wasn't all that bad at the boat. So thankfully, right? You sort of count your blessings. But this is the life of somebody that has a boat and lives in the hurricane belt. I'd love to say this isn't the norm, but Deb and I do this every single hurricane season, and when we were on the boat, for some reason it wasn't as stressful as being off the boat. When I'm on the boat, I can double check the lines. I know I'm going to be sleeping on it, unless it's going to be a category 2, 3, 4, or 5 or higher, and I'm really worried about it. But normally I would stay on the boat and ride out a tropical storm and ride out that higher water. And if we go 2 feet over the dock, but I'm on the boat, I have a lot of control there. And God forbid it gets really bad. If I had to, I could drop my lines and get away from the dock until such a time that I could find a better place to tie up. So while it was nerve-wracking living on the boat, there's a helplessness when all you can do is look at the weather forecast and stare at a video footage from the cameras you have on board. It gets really, really nerve-wracking. Luckily my daughter's there, so she was certainly able to go over to the boat and double check things and make sure the lines were good. And as the water rose and the boat rose, she did go a couple of different times and adjust the fenders and what we call banger boards. I don't know exactly what they're called, but we have these very long horizontal boards that ride along the pylon so that if the water were to go over the dock, that keeps any part of the boat from actually going in over the concrete pier. And then she keeps fenders between that banger board and the actual boat to protect it as well. Especially since these banger boards are about 30 feet long. It's two 2x12s bolted together. So you got to keep those bolts off of that section too. And I just don't want that board rubbing on the side of the boat. So I guess the big question is, what does it mean for sailing the boat back? When I was doing the route planning video last week, I think I mentioned we are typically okay sailing a little bit during hurricane season. We probably won't wait until after December. We'll have to play it by ear and see, but that's not likely what we'll do. We think if it gets late in October-ish, that's an okay time to start considering doing some sailing, making sure you're checking the weather, being diligent, not being so far away that you couldn't duck in somewhere if you had to. And with the route we planned last week, we wouldn't have anything longer than a 3 to 4 day offshore passage. So typically you get more than 3 to 4 days notice with a hurricane unless something just popped up out of the blue, which is a possibility, but a slighter chance for sure. So the question becomes, when do we sail it back? And I use this analogy often. If you've ever popped popcorn in a microwave, I think the instructions will tell you how long to put it on, but then it says listen, and when the popcorn popping is no longer consistent or there's a couple of seconds gap between when they pop, then it's done. I kind of view sailing on the outskirts of hurricane season the same way. If there's still hurricanes popping up every single week in the Atlantic, like there are right now, there's 4 or 5 out there right now, when they're popping up like that, that's a little too risky for me, and I'm not ready to jump out into that popping popcorn, if you will. So I like to wait until I don't start to see these things forming every week or two before I would even consider it. I know this is a little bit of a different video. I wanted to share my thoughts on this because it has really been all-encompassing the last week. Friday night is when we really started paying close attention to this, and every couple of hours, Saturday through Sunday, we were evaluating the path. I was comparing the models of the European, the global, and the North American hurricane models, spaghetti models, to see where each of them were showing that this storm was going to go. I don't know why. There isn't a whole lot you can do about it once it's going, right? Especially if you're not there. But it was all-consuming. And once we realized we were safe, then we started thinking about our friends and people we knew that were in the area that were going to be affected. We have friends in Panama City, so Nikki and Jay, hi. And also some friends just south of that in Port St. Joe. And I was talking to one of them, and they were telling me that the little weather station, at a neighbor's house, recorded like, I think it was 15 point something inches. No, 18 point something inches of rain in a 48-hour period. That is just unbelievable. And they didn't have high winds. They just had all of this rain that came with these storms. And then, on the back side of a storm, it's not uncommon on the southeast side of a hurricane to see spin-offs with a lot of thunderstorms, potential hail, and even tornadoes. So they were seeing some of the tornado warnings as this thing made landfall. And I'm recording this Thursday night, so the day before you're seeing it. And that same storm, what was Hurricane Sally, which is now a Tropical Storm Sally, is kind of traveling northeast on land, probably heading toward Atlanta, and it will probably be in Atlanta or past Atlanta by the time you see this video on Friday evening, or Friday evenings when it posts. I don't know when you'll be watching it. I guess for point of reference, it is Thursday, September the 17th of 2021. So that's probably worth sharing, just given that I'm referencing days of the week here. So again, a little bit of a different video. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of what it is we faced when there's a hurricane coming, what's going through our mind, and what we just obsess over when it comes to weather. Anyway, we will see you guys next week, and hopefully we'll be out on the water. We certainly weren't doing that last weekend here, but I'm hoping this week to get out on the water again, and maybe I'll take you along, we'll do some fishing or some cruising around, whatever it is. But hope to see you guys next Friday. Safe sailing and a following sea. Bye, y'all. Be safe. Oh, and if you do enjoy grilling videos, every Tuesday we started doing a grilling video series all about either smoking on a smoker or cooking on a flat top griddle. It's been a lot of fun. Something we haven't been able to do living on the board, and now in a house we have the room for it. So we've been having some fun doing that for sure. All right. Bye, y'all. Be safe.